Hey guys, Keisha here of Coconut Robot, and today, yes, the day before Valentine's Day, we are going to make a felt rose. Super last minute, but now you'll be prepared for next year, right? So the supplies that we'll use for today's flower is a rose, the piece of felt that you want to use for your actual flower, and then I'm using two greens for the stem, where the stem meets the rose and the leaves, but you can use the same. This is another piece of 18 gauge wire. This is not the wrapped, thread wrapped version, and then I also have some thin wire. I'm using a dark green floral wire. You can get this at any hobby shop or Amazon, but you do not need to use green. My favorite shears that spring open, a wire cutter, and my favorite Havel curved scissors. You'll see these so many times because I love them. Okay, so I'm just using a ruler here to show you guys size. Hot glue gun too. Totally forgot to show that at the beginning. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start cutting our petal pieces from the red felt. I apologize in advance. We were having a little bit of a blizzard, so my lighting isn't awesome, and my camera was not having fun focusing on the red. I won't use red for tutorials in the future. Camera did not like that. Okay, so I'm going to cut the first strip about 1/2 to 5/8 of an inch wide. This is going to be for the center. We won't use the whole thing, but we'll go ahead and chop those into petals so you're prepared for more roses as you continue on. And then we're going to cut another strip. The next strip is going to be about 1 inch wide. And again, after you make a couple, you can totally play with these dimensions and make your roses as large or small as you'd like. And then my largest one is going to be about 1.25 to 1.5 inches. And this will be for the outermost petals of your rose. And you can totally do this rose, as you'll see as we continue, with just the first two sizes as well, if you want to make a bunch of little mini roses. So that's just a hair shy, about 1.3 inches. So we've got our strips cut, and now we're going to go ahead and start cutting our actual petals. Okay, suffering from lack of sleep, I forgot to hit record. So from the first 1/2 inch strip that I cut, I'm cutting slight rectangles. So anywhere from about 1/2 inch by 5/8 to a 1/2 inch by just a hair over a 1/2 inch. I'm talking squares, but not perfect squares, so they can be slight rectangles. When I had 1 inch left, I went ahead and just cut that, the hot dog way, cut that into two longer rectangles, and that's going to be the very center of our rose. Okay, so then starting with our middle strip, so that was our inch in width. Now I'm cutting those, again, just into slight rectangles for our petals. And we'll do the same with the largest strip. Now using your Havel curved scissor, or whatever scissor you like, this just makes it really easy, we're going to cut the corners off of the bottoms of our petals. So for the largest two strips, this is what you're going to do. We have the bottom there, and then we're going to snip about a 1/2 inch up in the center, and that's how we're going to create some dimension with our petal there, as you can see. And then you're going to go ahead and just curve the top. So you can make these perfectly circular at the top. You can just trim off the corners. I like to cut some with a little bit of variation, because one thing I love about roses is that, I don't know, a lot of times they're kind of battered and ripped and stuff, but that just adds to the beauty of them. So obviously you're not going to get, the realism that you're going to have in a real rose, but we're going to aim for a little bit of it, right? So just go ahead and continue cutting those. I like to cut that slice in the bottom right away, so I kind of remember what I had intended on having as the bottom of the petal and what side I intended on having as the top. And as you cut them, you may change your mind on which one you were planning to have as the top and the bottom. So just continue cutting out your medium and large petals in this manner, making sure to do that little slice in the bottom center. and I'll be showing you what we'll do with that in just a minute. Feel free to hit pause while you finish cutting out your petals, and then we'll go ahead and pick it up with the smallest of the petals when you're caught up. Okay, so we've cut out our medium and our large petals, and now we're going to take that smallest row and we're just going to round the corners. So these are going to end up being small circles and small ovals, maybe even with some flatter edges. I end up grabbing kind of one strip around the outside, but you can really even just trim off the corners. Again, just play and have fun. There's really no wrong way to do any of this. I just want to give you guys the foundations so that you can just continue making your felt flowers however you want to make them. So finish cutting out those small ones and then we'll get on to the construction of the rose. Okay, so all of our petals have been cut. Now we're going to go ahead and create that 3D kind of curvature of those largest and medium-sized petals. So as you can see there, I just crossed over that little cut that I made at the bottom of the petal. Just add a little bit of glue, cross it over, and hold it in place. I may be giving up on hot glue, guys. My aunt is a florist, and she recommended pan glue, and I think I'm going to follow her up on that because I'm just getting a little tired of all the strings and things from hot glue. So stay tuned. You may be seeing a different type of glue in the future. I will let you know. Okay, so you're just going to go ahead and glue up all of those medium and large petals. Go ahead and set them aside, and then I'm going to show you one additional trick that I do that I think just softens them up a little bit, and it adds that curvature that you often see in roses where that top kind of flips out a bit. So you're going to take each of those petals and just flip them. You know those little popper things that we had as kids that you would flip over and set them down and they would pop up to the sky? That's sort of what you're doing. So think of it when you first glued it as being in kind of the neutral stage of that little rubber flip thing. I don't know what those things are called. And you're just flipping it the opposite way. I find it just helps the edges flare a little bit. It softens the curve instead of being such a harsh point. You don't have to do this step. I just think it makes the rose look a bit more believable and a bit more natural. So now that you've flipped all those, we're going to go ahead and start with those tiny strips that we cut and create the center of our rose and just build it from there. So taking one of your small strips, just add a little dab of glue to attach it onto your 18 gauge wire or a stick. I mean, you could really build these on whatever you'd like. Going off frame there a little bit. Sorry about that. Again, this red is not focusing well, so I plan on doing another rose tutorial with a different color in the next few months, and I'll probably have some improvements because that's what I like to do. I think every flower I make a few changes just to improve the look of it even more. So just continue wrapping that around the tip of your wire. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're barely going to see this, but it just adds kind of that high volume of petals that you often see in the inside of a rose. Then you're going to take the second strip and just build it on to that first one. Again, there's really no right and wrong on how you want to do this. They can go the same direction. They can go opposite direction. I kind of try to flare them out a little bit and angle them just a hair, just so I have some, I don't know, non-imperfections, I guess I should say. So not non-imperfections. I'm all jumbled. I need more coffee. Okay, so we've got our center of our rose there, and glue everywhere. And now we're going to take those the smallest petals that we didn't cut the little divots into, and we're going to build those on. Okay, this is me trying to get this camera to focus. Okay, I think you can see what's going on. But when I was shooting, I really wasn't sure if all you were seeing was a big red blob. So I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. Okay, so we're just going to build on those petals. The base is remaining about the same. So you are going to have those side petals come up a little bit from the center. Unlike the ranunculus where everything is really level at the top, these petals are going to step up from that center that we just created, but the base is going to stay about the same. So as you can see, I'm not coming down a lot further than those 2 twists that I already put on the wire. I'm kind of coming out of the same point, and you're going to see that we'll continue doing that for the entire rose. So just go ahead and build. I do about 2 rows of these smallest petals. Okay, so we've got the center of our rose. If you want to, you can totally stop here. I will be showing you how to make some buds of different flowers coming up and how to make them a little bit more believable, I guess. But you could just stop there and leave that as a little rosebud. We're going to go ahead with our middle-sized petals here, and we're going to kind of cup the flower, the base of the flower that you've created from those small petals with that divot that we've created. Do you see how I'm kind of grabbing hold of the flower and it's creating just that cupped rose look? I don't know how else to say it. And by flipping the petals the way that we did, the outside just fans out a little bit, which is just very rose-ish. So go ahead and just keep building on your middle-size petals, and then we'll move on to the largest ones. Just kind of play with the placement. As you can see, I like to kind of bend back those petals too. You can, again, stop here. You could totally make your rose out of just those 2 smallest petal sizes. No need to go on to the largest ones if you don't want to, but we will. So now we're going to go ahead and attach those in the same manner that we did the middle size. So again, you're going to start at the same placement on the base, which will then kind of capture the whole rose and also come up just a little bit above that middle size row of petals, but not a ton. Just kind of a natural progression, I guess would be the best way to say that. Go ahead and add our final petal on this rose. As you can see, I used all the largest size, all but about 3 of the smallest petals and all but 2 of the medium ones. And you might use them all. You may have more left over. It really just depends on how you want to make your flower. So now we're going to go ahead and add the greenery for how the rose attaches to the stem. This is one of my favorite ways to kind of research how different flowers attach from the stem, how the buds grow. I don't know. I've never looked at so many pictures of flowers in my life, but it's fun. So go ahead and grab your green felt, either one of the 2 colors, or if you're using the same color for both, that's fine. And I just have some rectangles already cut that are about 1.5 inches long by 5/8 of an inch wide. You're going to need 5. I don't know why I just have 3. I end up grabbing scraps. This is a great thing to use for scraps. Obviously, if your rose is larger, you can go a bit bigger. If your rose is smaller, you can make them even smaller. I'm just going to curve the bottom, kind of like we did for the daisy, and just go up to a point. Roses kind of have like I think they're almost always 5, maybe they're 4. I have not researched enough, apparently, even though I think I'm looking at a lot of roses. And they just kind of, almost like a hand, kind of hold the rose from the stem. So what we're going to do is put a hole in each of the little pieces that we're going to cut out. So we're going to cut out 5 of them, or do 3 or 5, whatever you want to do, 3, 4. And we're just going to kind of build that out to create more of a weight at the center, because there is more of a weight coming from the rose. So by adding layers all coming from the same point, you're going to create that weight and that thickness from 5 layers of felt. And we'll just kind of twist those around, and then we'll move on to the leaf. So go ahead and just hit pause if you need time to cut out the little stem pieces here. I don't know what that's technically called. And then just go ahead and hit play when you're all caught up. I've got all of those green pieces stacked on my stem, and I'm just going to add glue at the center. So just one by one, I'm just going to adhere them to each other, making sure I have the correct placement of where I want those to be. You can, if you want, glue them a bit more up onto the rose. I chose to leave them kind of free as far as that goes. They're just glued at the center, but it's totally up to you. Again, freedom, people, freedom. Make these flowers however you want to. And then we'll go ahead and move on to the leaves. Okay, so these are probably, oh man, my favorite part about this rose. Adding the wire gives the leaves just a little bit of structure, and it allows you to create kind of that center veining that pulls in and gives the leaves a little bit of curvature. This is also what's making me realize I should use a different type of glue. So more on that later. And my ruler is out of frame, I apologize. So that strip that I cut was about 4 inches. That piece you see there is about 3 inches by 1.5 inches, roughly. And I'm just going to cut a stem, not really a stem, just kind of a longer tail of the leaf to attach the rose. It's kind of a characteristic of the rose leaves, is they have kind of a smaller piece that comes off until the leaf kind of starts. And they almost always are in 2. So there's 1 on each side of the stem wherever you see a leaf. And they do have kind of pokey edges. And so I did not take the time to create a whole bunch of like super detailed points. But just by kind of moving my scissor a little bit, I'm trying to give the illusion of it not being a perfectly smooth edge. Maybe I didn't get that across. Maybe I did. So there's one of our leaves. We'll cut out 2, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that floral wire. I'm just kind of playing with placement a little bit, and you'll see that if we don't have the wire, they're just going to flop down, which is not very characteristic of that rose. And when they're flat like that, it's another thing that's just not very characteristic about a rose leaf. So we're going to take that tiny wire. Again, mine is dark green. You do not need to have dark green wire, but just a nice pliable wire, because we're going to glue that in the center of our leaf. So go ahead and just trim that to size-ish. And then we'll go ahead and run the hot glue along that wire and place it on the felt. You're really going to have to kind of hold it a little bit until that hot glue really takes time to dry. Otherwise, the felt is going to want to pull apart. So you'll see as I hold that in place just to make sure it's staying where I want it to. Go ahead and trim the wire as needed, and then I'll glue that onto my stem. You could also take that wire if you wanted to and kind of use that to wrap it around the stem, just to give it a little bit more support. I found the glue worked fine, but who knows? Maybe I'll try that next time. So yeah, just take that and glue it onto the stem, and then we'll go ahead and make our second leaf. So go ahead and attach that second leaf, and you are good to go. I hope you enjoyed this rose tutorial today. Like I said, a little last minute for maybe this Valentine's Day, but you'll be well prepared for next year. Let me know if you have any questions. I definitely answer comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more tutorials. Thanks for watching.